This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points, presented by Community Coffee, official coffee of the Houston Texans. Also sponsored by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans. And by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Amegy, the official business bank of the Houston Texans.
Let's talk for what we got. Need some juice, need some energy, and just do your job. Punch the ball.
Here comes pressure. He's going to go down. Touchdown, Houston. Rock and roll.
Well, hey there, it's Texans Extra Points time, and we're so very happy that you're with us. My name's Drew Dougherty, I'm your host, and look who we have with us today. Deepi Sidhu of HoustonTexans.com and Brandon Scott of Sports Radio 610. That jacket, it's phenomenal. It's prompted the both of us to ask, what is that velvet? So I love what you're wearing, man. You're doing a good job today.
True Southern fashion. Anytime it gets under 60 degrees, we're going to bring out our velvet, our minks, because that's the only time we get to bring it.
I'm wearing leather pants, everybody.
Leather pants for Deepi.
It's fall.
Yes, the fashion first edition of Texans Extra Points. Hey, there's a lot of fun stuff happening today because we're going to give you an over-under on the amount of touches Damien Pierce is going to get in this game. Sounds interesting, and I sound a little bit skeptical. But we're also going to talk about some defensive playmakers who might be on the way. Is help coming? Plus, these are not the Jaguars of the past few years. They're a little bit scarier. We'll explain why. And as always, we wrap things up with keys to a victory. So we start things off, though, with the offense and Davis Mills. So let's do the old complete this sentence drill. I was encouraged by Davis Mills because...
Well, he got the deep passing game going last week. I think seeing Nico Collins, every week we're waiting for Nico Collins to have that breakout sort of a game. And I was really encouraged by some of those deep balls to Nico because I felt like that was something that was lacking offensively through the first 3 games. Got it going, set up the touchdown right after that one deep ball to Nico for 58 yards. And I asked Davis Mills about it in the press conference. They were seeing that coverage. They wanted to run that play. He checked out of it, but then he finally got to it. And I think that if he can have confidence in his receivers and do more of that, it just opens things up and it gets them in the red zone. And I think it just gets the offense clicking and moving, gets it a little bit more up-tempo. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it could go a long way in a lot of different ways. How about you? Why are you encouraged?
Davis Mills showed that he was capable for all of the criticisms and for all of the struggles that Davis Mills has had throughout the season, at least 4 games throughout the season. He showed that he was capable both before the Damien Pierce 75-yard run and after that. All you have is that crippling interception that happens early, and that's a protection breakdown, not just on Davis Mills. Right. Maybe that's a decision issue. Maybe you don't throw that ball. You can nitpick a little bit, but throughout the game, I mean, he's making his throws. He's accurate. I thought this was his most accurate game. Davis Mills, at the very least, showed that he was capable, and I think that's what you're trying to figure out from Davis Mills throughout the season.
All right, we all look nice. We all have nice smiles today, and we're saying nice things, but Texans are 0-3-1. So there is some nitpicking, as you talk about, that needs to be done. Let's complete this sentence about Davis Mills. Davis Mills needs to, what's he got to do?
Play a complete game.
Yeah.
It's the consistency. That's the issue that we've had here. I mean, when we talk about all of the criticisms, it's not about, again, I used the word capable earlier. Right. He's capable, he's just not consistent. You look at the game in Denver, and he completes 50% of his passes. They only get to the red zone once and don't convert. They get a turnover from the Christian Kirksey interception, not able to capitalize on it. So there were so many opportunities that they didn't capitalize on. The Chicago game, that becomes the first game where he gets a turnover. Now he's got turnovers in back-to-back games. And so the consistency hasn't been there. He hasn't played a complete game. He's been capable in spots and at times, but it's either early or it's late, but it's never complete with Davis Mills so far, so that's what he's got to do.
All right, in another life, Deepi Sidhu worked for Texas Instruments. She's a really smart lady. She's got an engineering degree. So I got out my TI calculator and I did some number crunching. Damien Pierce has averaged 17.5 touches, so that's carries and catches per game, 17.5 through 4 games. That's a nice little data point for the first quarter of the season. So let's talk about over-under. Does he go and match that, does he go over that 17.5, or does he go under this Sunday. What do you see?
I'm taking the over on
Yeah.
Damien Pierce, 17.5 touches. I mean, think about the last couple of weeks, and I know this is an average that you've done here, but the last couple of weeks, I think Damien Pierce has shown himself to be, at least so far, their best offensive weapon, their best offensive player.
There's no question about that. Yeah.
At least 4 games into the
Right.
season, and so you want to lean into that. And what has been their stated identity? To be a ground and pound team. They want to run the ball. They want to force the issue. Well, there's no better way to do that than to feed the ball to Damien Pierce, either whether it be in the run game or the pass game.
And Pierce does it with a variety of exclamation points. He can do it with power. He can spin. We saw the home run hitting ability last week with the big speed. What do you see? I'm guessing the over as well for you?
I mean, I have to go over because I think Brandon hit on it perfectly. We've been trending in that direction of 20. You saw early on it was him and Rex getting carries. Then you see him get taken out of the game a little bit early. Then he has the fumbles, gets taken out early. But if he's in there for the entire game, and I think last week's game was a bit strange with just the fewer number of carries on the ground, but he was getting more reception. So all in all, I think that's the goal, is to get him to 20 every single week. So unless something goes horribly wrong, it's got to be over 17.5.
And I doubt we'll ever see a stat line like we saw last week with 6 catches for just 8 yards. He's going to get the ball in a better spot, I think, and really get some yardage. Okay, speaking of Pierce, let's take a look at that touchdown run. 75 yards. It was one of the fastest plays of the weekend, literally, because he ran over 20 miles per hour on that. And our guy, John Harris, is breaking down that score as well as the touchdown to Brandon Cooks.
Welcome to Texas Illustrated, presented by BMW. I'm your host, John Harris. 75 yards is a long way to run. Damien Pierce did that against the Chargers. How did it happen? Well, he got some key blocks, and it started with the wide receiver. All right, let's go to our Microsoft service here and take a look. The Texans came out here in this set. There's Troy Hairston. So it's a pretty good thought that, yeah, they're going to run the football. 1 tight end, 21 personnel. Now, Nico comes across here. Now, this is one key block. We're going to keep an eye on 3 guys. Nico, Hairston, and OJ gets a good block in here. So it's those 3 we're going to look at. And then one final one for Brandon Cooks. We'll get that in a little bit. Let's focus on Nico first. He gets Rump right there and just pins him inside. So it's a toss play. So Rump, you would think, is the edge defender. But when he comes inside, now Tranquil's got to get over the top. So block number 1 is Nico. Great job there. So let's rewind that. So he gets that block. Great job. See how he knocks him inside? Excellent. Now let's get to block number 2. O.J. Howard is somewhere in here. Number 83. Right there. He gets that block on Tranquil to pin Tranquil inside. So that's block number 2. And then I want you to watch. Oh, baby. Block number 3. Right there. Oh, my gosh. I'm going to just run it back a few times. Bang. Well, I mean, watch this hit by Troy Hairston. Boom. Right there. Now, you're going to go, well, what about the corner? Well, the corner's got contained. So he comes up outside. It does force Damien back inside, but because of that block, what Nico did, he's off to the races. And then watch Brandon Cooks right here. Look at Brandon put his head down to shield J.C. Jackson from getting in there. Look at that. That's how a captain's supposed to do it, and that's how it came together on Damien Pierce's long run.
Mills with the toss to Pierce. Right side has a block across the 30, 35 to the outside 40, the 50, right sideline, the 40 of the Chargers, the 30, 20, 10, 5, rock and roll, touchdown, Houston, 75 yards.
After the Texans had completed the bomb from Davis Mills to Nico Collins, it was time for the post route for a touchdown on the very next play. Let's take a look at how it happens. And there's a key player on this. The Chargers are playing what looks like quarter, half. So they're going to play a half over here, with safety there, flat player here. And the quarter side of this, they're going to match up with the routes. So if OJ is out here, Thurwin's probably going to go to him. Now, as it turns out, the Chargers are basically taking Khalil Mack and James and make them responsible for OJ and Damien. So you'll see as the ball is snapped here, Mack goes with OJ, and Derwin starts out that direction. So he vacates. As soon as he vacates, Brandon Cooks knows, bang, right there. When I talked to Brandon, he said he knew from the jump. He knew exactly what was happening. He knew he just had to get inside of that defensive back who had inside leverage. So Brandon does a good job selling and then bending that route probably a little bit earlier just to make sure he can get in. But he knows James is gone. Watch Derwin James right here. He's gone. So with that space, Davis throws a bullet for a touchdown. Nice job. Let's take a look at it from the end zone view. Take a look at protection. Good protection here. Mack peels off. Look at that nice pot. Watch this. Look at that. You want to throw from that. And now with James gone, Murray's getting out of there too. That's a direct sight line to Brandon Cooks for the 6 points.
One back Pierce, Mills back to throw, looking, firing to the end zone, and caught by Cooks! Touchdown, Houston! Mills with the toss to Pierce. Right side has a block across the 30, 35 to the outside 40, the 50, right sideline, the 40 of the Chargers, the 30, 20, 10, 5, rock and roll! Touchdown, Houston, 75 yards!
That's a pretty cool graphic. It's powered by AWS. It's the next gen stat, and those are all the spots that Damien Pierce ran last weekend, and boy did he ever run. Drew, Deepi, Brandon here on Texans Extra Points. Coming at you from the Ford studio. Let's talk about the defense, friends. Okay, Brandon, I'm gonna start with you. What's got to change on defense after these first 4 games from what we've seen?
They've got to tackle better. They need better linebacker plays more specifically, and I'm hoping that there is some help on the way eventually. But the linebacker play, and I think that the tackling has been an issue. And the frustrating part, I think, about the Chargers game was that some of those tackling issues persisted, but even beyond that, they weren't as good in the passing game as well. And that was at least one thing that I thought they had been at least average and sometimes above average. Obviously, there's the Jalen Petrie game against the Bears where he's got the 2 interceptions. So they've had some success in the passing game. They didn't do that. And so I think that it's got to be the tackling, though, because they've missed far too many tackles throughout the season.
He says tackling. What say you?
I mean, I would say tackling, but better communication, because it seemed like there were a lot of communication breakdowns on the defense, which is maybe why there were missed tackles. You saw Austin Eckler just like have a day, and they couldn't really get things right, and they couldn't make the adjustments. And Lovie Smith said tackling, poor communication, both of those have to get better. And I think the pass rush needs to step up as well. We didn't see as much from the pass rush last week as we had in recent weeks.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the injured reserve has kind of expired on a few players, meaning they can play as soon as this Sunday. And one of those guys is a guy named Mario Addison. We're going to talk about Christian Harris in a moment. He's a linebacker. But Mario Addison is a guy I think we've got to keep our eyes on. Led the Bills in sacks last year. His defensive line coach there is now the defensive line coach for the Texans, Jacques Caesar, and he said this guy can bring speed off the edge. How key would a Mario Addison bringing speed off the edge be for this defense, Deepi?
I mean, I would just love to see Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison in there together. We saw what Jerry Hughes was able to do. 4 sacks through the first few games. He didn't have a sack last week, but I was joking to him. I said, you're on pace for like nearly 23 sacks through the season if you keep this up. And he said he'd click his heels and hope for the best. But I think if Mario Addison's in the lineup with him, that gives us the best chance to sort of get that pass rush going against a guy like Trevor Lawrence. But I think Mario Addison, just that veteran experience up there with Jerry Hughes, they've played together, they know the system. I mean, I think he can only help.
So that could be some speed off the edge, but there needs to be some speed in the linebacking core. Right. Could that be coming with Christian? We don't know if he's going to play necessarily or not on Sunday, but when he comes back, he's going to be a difference maker, I think.
Yeah, I think that there's no question about it. I just think back to when he was drafted, and you guys posted that video on social media of Nick Caserio and Lovie Smith hugging, and just the joy that you could see on Lovie Smith's face. And obviously, linebackers are the hallmark of a Lovie Smith defense. The play has not been there. Christian Harris, we have not seen. Both with Mario Addison and Christian Harris, I think that there's just an exciting intrigue of 2 guys that you haven't seen yet. We talk about the pass rush earlier. I mean, if there was one thing that stood out about the defense on Sunday against the Chargers was their inability to get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
I can remember John Harris talking in the preseason about how he thought that the defensive line was supposed to be one of the deepest units that they had, that the Texans had, and Mario Addison was going to be a big part of that. We just haven't seen it. And then Christian Harris is just somebody I think that they've been excited about. Maybe a little under the radar pick when you've got Derek Stingley, number 3. You've got 2 first-round picks that you're focused on. Jalen Petrie and Damien Pierce are playing out of their mind. And so Christian Harris is kind of gone under the radar, but I think he can definitely be a difference maker for them on Sunday.
Under the radar is the perfect term for this, because I'm telling you, these guys could be very, very important to the Texans defense, both this weekend and regular season, the regular season as it rolls on. Okay, we've got some Texans trivia before we go to break. Think about this. 40 times the Texans and Jaguars have linked up and played. How many times have the Texans won out of those 40? We'll have that answer later on in Texans Extra Points.
Draymond Smith 3 yards deep in the end zone. Right lets it fly, and Smith is going to make the catch at the 2, right side over the 5, cutting left 10, 15, through a little seam, 20, 25, 30, 35, still going, and he escapes out to the left side, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Houston, rock and roll, Draymond Smith, coast to coast.
We're back. That was Draymond Smith last year in Jacksonville, mic'd up when he took one to the house. He played a great game, not just with that touchdown, but a few other returns, even made a big tackle on special teams. Drew Dougherty, Deepi Sidhu, Brandon Scott. Okay, let's talk about these Jaguars. Hey, big surprise. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are 2-2, and Trevor Lawrence, he looks like the #1 overall pick. It's nice what not having chaos on the coaching staff and a really good defense will do for you, isn't it? Trevor Lawrence, he's playing like he should, right?
Yeah, and I was talking to JP Shadrick of the Jaguars, and he said that there were so many things that he was thrust into last year that he had to address in the post-game press conferences, not even related to football or his play. As a rookie, that's a lot to ask of a guy, even if he is the #1 overall pick. He's not had to worry about that this year. I mean, overall, I think they just put him in a position to succeed. And other than last week's game at Philly, he's done that so far.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of knew this was coming, right? You saw this coming, didn't you?
Even when they were failing at times last year, failing throughout last year, you could still see it. Like even when they played here at NRG and he was sailing balls and the Texans were getting interceptions, and it was a great day for the Texans, but you could still see it. You could still see some of the qualities, the traits. Yeah. Nick Caserio, GM here, talks about being a traits guy, liking traits. Trevor Lawrence has got traits, and you could see him. You know a guy's really good when they have a bad game and you're still impressed. And that was what even last week was. I mean, the guy fumbles the ball, loses 4 fumbles, and throws a pick. And I'm still marveled at some of the plays.
Still put up points.
Still put up points, still had a chance to win the game. I mean, it got off to a strong start, had a 14-0 lead at one point, or to start the game before they give up 29 unanswered. So there are even times when they're struggling, where Trevor Lawrence, you can see the special, and I would just echo what Deepi said about the Doug Peterson difference. Not just the chaos, but also the offensive mind, the scheme. Mm-hmm. I think both of those things together is just kind of the perfect culmination of things coming together for Trevor Lawrence.
And he's been there and done that. He's won a Super Bowl. I mean, with Nick Foles, no less. That's impressive stuff. All right, let's stick with you. Texan to watch against the Jaguars. Who are you keeping your eyes on?
So number 1, I'm going to go Jerry Hughes, but any of you defensive linemen, feel free to take the baton. feel free to take the reign. It doesn't have to be Jerry.
We're penning you in. You have Jerry Hughes.
I have Jerry Hughes, but I'll be glad if it's any of the other ones. Going back to our points that we made earlier about not being able to get to the passer, I think that's going to be a really key component to this game. Watching a guy like Jerry Hughes, who we saw glimpses of it in that first game where he had the 2 sacks and was impactful. And I think that if he can get to Trevor Lawrence, that's how you disrupt a lot of that stuff that we're talking about with his development.
Good choice. How about you?
I'm going to go Nico Collins. I mean, he had a big game last week. I felt like he was our player to watch every single week. He's quietly put together over 200 yards of receiving just through these first few games. So I'm going to watch Nico Collins. I feel like good things happen when they're able to involve him more in the offense and get the deep game going.
And good things also happen when guys played Jenga with me the week before a game. A couple weeks ago, I played Jenga with Jalen Petrie. He had 2 picks. Last week, it was Roy Lopez, had a few tackles for loss. So Nico Collins, he might get a hundy and a touchdown. He's not my choice, though. I'm going to go with Jalen Petrie because this guy was angry after last week. I mean, they were all angry after last week's game, but it was sticking with him, and he wants to make some improvements. Let's see him get a takeaway. I like Jalen Petrie for that. All right, we got to get to keys to a victory, and we're going to do that on the next segment of Texans Extra Points.
Texans Extra Points, presented by Community Coffee, official coffee of the Houston Texans. Also sponsored by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans. And by Mattress Firm, the official sleep partner of the Houston Texans.
We're back. Texans Extra Points. Drew Dougherty, Deepi Sidhu, Brandon Scott. Okay, the trivia answer earlier was the question was, the Texans and Jags have played 40 times all told. How many times have the Texans won?
I feel like I should know this. It's got to be in the 30s, low 30s.
Close.
I'm going to go 27.
Ooh, you got it. That's it. 27 is the number.
Wow,
Texans have won 19 of the last 23. So think about that. 19 of the last 23, starting in the last week of the 2010
I'm feeling lucky now,
season.
Drew.
Yes,
There you
yeah,
go.
you're on a roll. All
There you
right,
go.
since you're feeling so lucky, what must the Texans do for a victory? What are your 2 keys to a win?
Look, I understand that the Texans are not on the level that the Eagles have shown themselves to be the last 4 games, or at least the first 4 games of the season, but they gave you the formula. Turn the guys over, okay, and run the ball. And those are things that I feel like this team preaches. They're part of their, again, stated identity. As a defense, they want to get you to turn. They want to get takeaways. I don't want Lovie Smith to hear me say the wrong thing. They want takeaways. Again, Trevor Lawrence dropped the ball, gave the ball up 5 times, 4 fumbles and an interception. Okay, and then running the ball. I mean, I think this is something that should be a theme of the offense. Okay, I want to see a lot of Damien Pierce, feed Damien Pierce, and I'll give you a bonus too.
Okay,
what about the tight ends? Can we get O.J. Howard involved? Remember the first game of the season where he's got 2 touchdowns to start the season?
On 2 catches.
On 2 catches, and then he's targeted once the second game, once the third game. Okay, he's targeted 5 times. Let's keep that up. Let's keep around the 5 to 7 targets for O.J. Howard, see what kind of difference maker he can be on offense.
That'd be big if that happened. What about you?
Yeah, I love those. I'm going to add to that, get the pass rush going. Only 1 sack last week. That's not going to cut it, especially against Trevor Lawrence. So you're going to have to get the pass rush going. Hopefully, Mario Addison, or you get some help along the way. They can get things going. John Bernard was not happy with how they played either. So they step it up this week, make Trevor Lawrence really uncomfortable. I'd like to see that. And then I think offensively, Davis Mills, the confidence that he had towards the end of last game, I'd like to see him build on that. Trust your receivers, get the ball out there, and get Brandon Cooks and your receivers all involved in the game more.
Love those. So kind of along those lines, they've done well in the second and third quarters. Score first and score last. Score early and score late as well, and then sandwich that around scoring
and in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and my last one, throw the ball to Damien Pierce and get some yardage there. All right, Brandon, Deepi, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate you watching. This has been Texans Extra Points, and we'll do it again next week.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.